J'ouvre maintenant la séance. Bienvenue.
I call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 7 of the House of Commons Standing Transport, Infrastructure and Communities. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of November 25th, 2021. Members are attending in person in the room and also by Zoom. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind all participants of this meeting that screenshots or taking photos on your screen is not permitted. The proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website. Given the ongoing pandemic situation and in light of the recommendations from public health authorities, as well as the directive of the Board of Internal Economy on January 28, 2022, to remain healthy and safe, the following is recommended for all those attending the meeting in person.
Participate by Zoom and not attend the meeting in person. Everyone must maintain 2-meter physical distancing, whether seated or standing. Everyone must wear a non-medical mask when circulating in the room. It is recommended in the strongest possible terms that members wear their masks at all times, including when seated. Non-medical masks, which provide better clarity over cloth masks, are available in the room. Everyone present must maintain proper hand hygiene by using the hand sanitizer at the room entrance. Committee rooms are cleaned before and after each meeting. To maintain this, everyone is encouraged to clean surfaces such as the desk, chair, and microphone with the provided disinfectant wipes and when vacating or taking a seat. As the chair, I'll be enforcing these measures for the duration of the meeting, and I thank members in advance for their cooperation. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on Monday, January 31st, 2022, the committee is meeting to discuss railway safety and effects on surrounding communities. Before I begin and invite the witnesses to deliver their opening remarks, colleagues, I've had discussions with all of you, and if there is no objection, as discussed, I will go into committee business at 5:10. If there are no objections. Thank you, colleagues. Our witnesses today are from the Blue Water Association for Safety, Environment and Sustainability, Vince Gagné, General Manager, de la municipalité de Terrasse-Vaudreuil dans le comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges. On a Monsieur le maire Michel Bordeaux, Association des
Railway Association of Canada, Mr. Marc Brazeau, President and Chief Executive Officer, and Mr. Gregory Colts, Director, Government Relations. And for the Union of Canadian Transportation Employees, Teresa Eschek, National Vice President, and Mike Martin, Policy Advisor.
With opening remarks, and to do so, I will turn the microphone over to you. Mr. Gagné, you have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
All right, you can hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Gagné.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and for having me appear here today. Thank you to the Honorable Marilyn Gladue for her invitation to speak. It's a real honor for the Blue Water Association for Safety, Environment and Sustainability, otherwise known as BASIS, to be here today. My name is Vince Gagné, and I'm the General Manager, and very pleased to provide this summary on behalf of my Board of Directors. We know that rail safety can be studied as a standalone topic. We know that it can also involve highly technical, site-specific risk assessments based on different operations and different localized conditions. But as part of the Sarnia-Lambton petrochemical and refining scope of activities, rail operations are just one of many activities that requires constant attention. The approach to public safety here at BASIS applies to many different hazards, one of which is rail safety. And we have many challenges, and there's lots of best practices shared and opportunities to be realized here on behalf of our members and on behalf of our community. BASIS brings groups together from across the region to look at and improve workplace safety, emergency preparedness, and environmental protection. And they're all connected. BASIS is just a brand, it bridges 3 nonprofit organizations, and that include, the first one is the IEC, or the Sarnia-Lambton Industrial Educational Co-op, and it has a board of directors that includes leaders from industry. We have a very progressive community college here called Lambton College, and local contractors, and the construction and building trades. So tradespeople that are here locally contribute to the design of workplace safety. The second one is called SLEA. It's the Sarnia-Lambton Environmental Association. And that board of directors, it includes leaders from industry, and we have a direct line of sight to on committees and different working groups with First Nations, municipal governments, provincial, and certainly federal agencies. The third one is CARE, and Sarnia-Lambton Community Awareness and Emergency Response. Now, the CARE board of directors, it includes representatives from industry, but it also includes mayors and different leaders from local municipalities and Aamjiwnaang First Nation. The CARE has two components, CA and ER, that's Community Awareness and Emergency Response. CARE has been around a long time. CARE was formerly coordinating emergency preparedness here in Sarnia-Lambton in the 1950s. Remember the $10 bill? That was our shot there of our sites from a long time ago. Actual events and simulated exercises at our sites activate regional emergency notifications, and those notifications go out to all of industry, all the local municipal groups, and First Nation responders. So that's coordinated through regional dispatch. So dispatch will notify and provide updates to response teams, including, for example, requests for certain types of municipal support and or mutual aid, because we're all working together and we all know the different resources that are shared across the area. So if an emergency event were to originate from a rail operation here, then our systems, our regional systems would respond, and it would ensure very quick, timely responder notifications, which is key in terms of the response, deployment of the right resources, and highly effective coordination. The fact that CARE is planning an exercise actually here on, all of you may know that Emergency Preparedness Week is the first week of May, and on May 2nd, we're going to have a regional simulated fire at a tank farm here, a refinery tank farm, and that will require site actions, response from adjacent rail operations, and activities that are going to happen through local authorities for the protection of the community. So the coordination of the exercise will occur through a staged unified command center, and community volunteers and other observers will be at that exercise, and they'll participate directly in that. And the nice thing about that is we will get their feedback directly in the debrief. They're directly connected. The community is directly connected to our design here. So then if you look at last spring in May, pretty significant development here. BASE has expanded our CARE model of response coordination, where that's since the 50s notification process. Well, we expanded that to include notifications directly to the public. These are called the CA, or the community awareness notifications, and they go directly from member sites through the BASE's website, but simultaneously they will go out through emails and text to whoever would like to subscribe, to predefined audiences such as media, political audiences, and community leaders. This new system provides it can be provided information for both emergency and non-emergency events, like even abnormal noise and construction activity and high flaring. And this approach ensures that it receives timely and accurate information directly from the site, reduces uncertainty, creates knowledge in the community, and really lowers that risk of public outrage. It's important to recognize that the idea for sharing these notifications came from a small but effective community notification tool created by Aamjiwnaang First Nation. So we use their system as our template, and we would like to recognize them for setting that example for all of us here in Sarnia-Lambton. This story, clearly demonstrates the value of sharing and learning and collaborating to improve public safety across our region. If you'd like to receive these notifications, you're more than welcome if you go to our website, lambtonbases.ca, and you can sign up for notifications, and you can get directly from Imperial, from Shell, from Suncor, from Nova, from Lanxio. You can get those notifications directly from them, just like all of our residents here receive them or are able to receive them. So most companies in Sarnia do operate that operate rail systems are part of our design. It provides them with direct access to this network of really talented people that really study risk and understand it and control hazards posed to public safety as a team. But equally important to this is this opportunity provided by bases for all rail operators to engage and listen to the public. And that's key, because this approach helps all of us better understand risk, because it requires us to look at our sites from the lens of the community. So
Mr. Gagné, 15 seconds, if you could.
I've been practicing. I'm right on 5 minutes. That's it, sir.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Mr. Gagné.
Thank you, Mr. Gagné. Now we have Mr. Bordeaux, Mayor of Terrasse-Vaudreuil. Welcome, Mr. Mayor. You have 5 minutes for your opening comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michelle Bordeaux, Mayor of the Municipality of Terrasse-Vaudreuil since 2013, and I was at council for many years before that. I'd like to give you a little bit of context. The municipality of Terrasse-Vaudreuil is located on Île Perrot, west of the Montreal River. I should explain that our municipality is located between 2 railroad crossings and a body of water. So to enter or exit the municipality, we have only 2 options, both of which involve crossing the railroad tracks, both CN and CP. So there's 4 tracks. The 3rd Avenue is under the jurisdiction of the Department of Transportation. Rail traffic has doubled in the past few years, approximately 100 trains per day. Automobile traffic has also increased over the years. Public transit is becoming more and more popular every day. And the Terrasse-Vaudreuil train station serves not only our residents, but also those of Pincourt and Notre-Dame, the neighboring towns. The parking lot is full to capacity, and bus will shuttle back and forth all day. 3rd Avenue crossing is busy, and the risk of accidents is constantly increasing. The Terrasse-Vaudreuil Municipal Council is repeatedly trying to make the case for urgently building an overpass at this crossing. However, the Quebec Ministry of Transport has no intention of going ahead with this project, preferring to wait for the completion of Highway 20. However, this major project will not be on the agenda for years to come. We find it hard to understand why the MTQ is not acted. A few years ago, delegates from the same ministry, accompanied by representatives of Transport Canada, met with the board. It was confirmed that Terrasse-Vaudreuil had one of the most dangerous level crossings in Quebec, and the risk of our community being cut off was also of great concern to both levels of government. The patience of motorists has a limit. Drivers often have to wait about 10 minutes before they can cross, especially when there are several trains, as is often the case. So there are more and more risks on this already dangerous crossing. The Dorion accident in 1966 left a mark on the people here. 21 young people died. Everyone remembers the school bus that was struck by a train. So do we have to wait for such an event to reoccur in Terrasse-Vaudreuil before we finally have our overpass? Expropriations required for the construction of such infrastructure have already been taken care of. All that remains is to go ahead. During the historic floods of 2017 and 2019, North Perrot Island, which is one of the 2 entrances to the municipality, was closed off due to high water. The railroad crossing gates are often defective. This happens on average 55 times a year. Freight trains often block the crossing, and sometimes the trains are so long that both accesses to Terrasse-Vaudreuil are blocked simultaneously. This is a major problem for emergency services. The municipality had no choice but to build a $1.3 million fire station on its little 1 square kilometer territory to protect our 2,000 citizens. The safety of pedestrians, cars, and buses should be a priority for everyone. Even though, as a municipality, we constantly talk to our citizens about the importance of crossing safely, their frustrations often get the better of them, and they cross illegally. Just to give you a little anecdote, just last week, there were a lot of cars which were going around this car because they had been waiting for about a half an hour. The gate had been down for half an hour. So people have taken videos of the problem. We try to make people aware of the dangers, but we're a little town, and people are used to seeing this type of incident occurring, and they just don't make a fuss about it. And safety has really become quite an issue. It could really be dangerous. There have been lots of accidents over the past 10 years, at least 100 of them. So 5 times it was the buses that were involved, and one time there were 2 buses side by side that were stuck between the 2 gates. You know, we're not asking for an overpass at any cost, but at least come up with a way so that people can get through, so we could get stretchers over if ever we were to have a really serious incident occur, such as the one we saw at I can't remember the name, where we had that big, huge train accident 4 or 5 years ago. We don't want to see that happen here. And the number of cars, train cars have increased. We're constantly getting stuck. And so there are about 2 kilometers between the exit and the exit to the municipality. And I hope, Mr. Chair, that people are going to be able to help us deal with this situation so that we can improve security for our citizens. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Bodo. Next, we'll be hearing from Mr. Brazeau, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Railway Association of Canada. Mr. Brazeau, the floor is yours.
Giving the opening remarks, so thank you very kindly.
Welcome, Mr. Coles. It's good to see you.
Likewise, thank you very much, and good afternoon, honourable members. My name is Gregory Coles, and I serve as the Director of Government Relations here at the Railway Association of Canada. I am joined by Marc Brazeau, President and CEO of the RAC. Nous sommes heureux d'être parmi vous dans...
We're happy to be here as part of your study on railway safety in Canada.
Mark and I will both be pleased to answer any questions you may have. La CFC.
The RAC represents nearly 60 freight and passenger railways and carries tens of millions of passengers and approximately $312 billion worth of assets throughout the country every year.
Every day, transporting everything from the cars we drive to the food we eat. To deliver these goods, more than 3,700 locomotives pull 5.5 million carloads across the country every year. The number one priority for Canada's railway industry is safety. Over the past 10 years, Canada's railways have invested more than $20 billion to ensure the safety and efficiency of their networks, and they remain fully committed to fostering a robust safety culture. Here are a few more relevant statistics. Over the past decade, from 2011 to 2020, the freight rail accident rate in Canada has decreased by 22%. In 2020, Railways invested $2.6 billion into Canadian assets, which is the second highest level on record behind $3.1 billion in 2019. Over the past decade, Canada's railways have invested $20.5 billion into their networks to improve safety, resiliency, and network fluidity. And since 2011, the dangerous goods accident rate has improved by 46%. In terms of transporting dangerous goods, Canadian railways move many hazardous materials which simply cannot be transported by pipeline or other means. In fact, under the common carrier obligation of the Canada Transportation Act, railways in Canada are required by law to move dangerous goods. With that in mind, it's worth noting that over 99.99% of all dangerous good carloads moved by train reach their destination without a release. In short, we are very proud that Canada's rail network is the safest in North America and among the safest in the world. Our members remain committed to building on their stellar safety record. The RAC and its members believe rail safety is enhanced by working closely with communities. Canada's railways have long shared information with municipalities about the goods traveling by rail to help them properly train for and respond to a potential incident. In fact, Canada's rail to inform communities and first responders about dangerous goods handling and emergency responses. For instance, since 2000, the RAC's Transportation of Dangerous Goods team has participated in more than 1,400 transportation community awareness and emergency response, otherwise known as TransCare, events to inform municipalities about the products being transported through their communities. Furthermore, through the TransCare initiative, the RAC DG team has helped train over 20,000 first responders and other personnel on the safe handling and transportation of dangerous goods. La CFC demeure déterminée à
RAC is determined to work with all levels of government and communities throughout the country to ensure that the rail sector in Canada remains competitive internationally, that it remain sustainable, and, in particular, safe.
Membres du comité que la sécurité ferroviaire est une priorité absolue pour l'ACFC et ses membres. Depuis plusieurs années, le secteur ferroviaire investit des milliards de dollars dans l'infrastructure, adopte des technologies et des pratiques innovatrices et augmente les activités de formation et de liaison afin de réaliser ces opérations de manière sécuritaire partout au Canada. Thank you very kindly. Mark and I look forward to
de l'Union canadienne des employés des transports, Miss Teresa Eschuk or Mr. Mike Martin, or perhaps you're splitting your time. All right, Ms. Eschuk, I think we've rectified the situation. You may continue. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Where was I? Okay, the most important multimodal principles that should be made available in Canada are whistleblowing protections enshrined in law, such as exist in the U.S. with an independent office established for these protections. Highest level of safety benchmarking should be required and written into transport safety law regulation guidelines and policies. Today, we look back with some of the same recommendations. Transportation of dangerous goods, railways have made virtually zero progress in implementing alternative routes for the transportation of dangerous goods around heavily populated areas as recommended by the Transportation Safety Board. Transport Canada needs to be more forceful in mandating company progress, for example, via interchange agreements, on rerouting to reduce the risk of major accidents. Since 2015, there have been 7 major derailments of trains carrying dangerous goods. All occurred because of broken rails or other track infrastructure problems. The TSB March 2020 advisory note, quote, in key train and key route rules, there were no provisions to address the need for enhanced track standards for key routes despite the huge increase in dangerous good traffic volumes, end quote. The traffic safety standards for key routes need to be updated. Transportation Safety Board. We have noted with interest the comments made by Kathy Fox, chair of the TSB, when she appeared before this committee in February. She said that Transport Canada has recommendations from the TSA back to 2013 that have yet to be acted upon.
15 seconds, please, Ms. Eschuk.
Okay, that should be unacceptable to this committee. Safety is should be everybody's number one priority. On behalf of the members of the Union of Canadian Transportation Employees, thank you for the opportunity to weigh in on this important matter. We remain committed to ensuring that Canada has the best safety standards in the world, and we recommit to working with Transport Canada and all invested parties to make that happen. In our view, safety cannot be one of many priorities. It needs to be the number one priority for all modes of transportation in this country. I look forward to any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Eschuk, and thank you to all of our witnesses for being here today. I know that the members are looking forward to asking you questions, and we will begin the round of questioning with Mr. Dowdall. Mr. Dowdall, you have 6 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I too want to thank the witnesses today and taking time out of their busy schedule to be here for us. I guess my first question is going to be to Mr. Brazeau, President of the Railway Association of Canada. And under the Transportation Information Regulations, as you know, railway companies are required to report specific safety data to Transport Canada on a regular basis. But according to the Auditor General's report on rail safety, Transport Canada, and I quote, did not provide sufficiently detailed guidance to the railway companies on how to report their safety data. So I guess my first question is that what do your members tell you about these transportation information regulations?
Well, thank you for the question, Mr. Dowdall. We actually have a rail safety data group that is working with TSB and Transport Canada to ensure that the methodology works in everyone's favor, that it's the right methodology to gather the information and make sure that that information is then interpreted and defined in the right way. So I would tell you that we are constantly having communications with the regulators and ensuring that if there's any gaps or if there's any information that is not properly communicated or defined, that we are working to enhance that. So, I'm not confirming that there's any major gaps, but what I am saying is that we are having dialogue to ensure that any information that we do gather is the right information, and it's information that's it's to the benefit of everyone.
So you in your mind, you think that it's clear about the information railway companies and what they have to report to Transport Canada and what timelines? Like it's crystal clear.
Yeah, we've not heard otherwise from our railway members to indicate that this is a major issue. But again, we're always looking to enhance how that data is shared and used. And we have a working committee, made up of the railways, TSB, and Transport Canada that's tackling those issues.
and would you have any suggestions perhaps that the government could make?
I'll leave that up to the working group because that's part of what they do, is to make sure that if there are any recommendations or any enhancements that can be brought forward, then the committee would certainly have those discussions, and then it would be presented to the minister for his follow-up and his action.
So is there a timeline for that?
I don't believe we're working under any specific timelines, but I can confirm that the committee is meeting regularly, and that there's ongoing dialogue at all times between the railways, Transport Canada, TSB, the Canadian Transportation Agency. I can certainly, provide assurances to the committee that the level of communication is very high on all issues relating to rail safety and policy and regulatory framework, and that's something that we take very seriously. And I can definitely confirm that is ongoing and working very well.
Thank you. And I guess my next set of questions is to His Worship Mayor Bordeaux. I'm a past mayor as well, in a community and a councillor like yourself for many years. And I can tell you that, and thank you for what you do, because you're the closest to the ground, and you probably get questions at you and frustration. I felt it before. I have many lines that run through my municipality in Esta Township from high volume to low volume. So certainly some concerns. We had, if there was a long time that the trains happened to be there, there was always people frustrated. Just if they were late was one thing, but we were always concerned when it came to emergency services that we provided, like yourself, whether fire department or ambulance, the amount of time that would get around. And I know you hear from citizens as well, probably from that perspective, if they did happen to have some health issues. But basically, I was just kind of wondering, what's your experience been to getting access to safety data reports provided by railway companies to Transport Canada so far?
It's been very difficult, in all honesty. Right now, my fire department receives the number of cases of trains. They know what's in the train, but we don't. Once a train's gone by, well, that information is not really useful. That's not when we need to get the information. We need to get this information before the train arrives. We have to know what's going through our territory so that we can protect ourselves. Right now, I'm 52 years old. 50 years ago, well, my family's been in politics for 50 years, and I've never seen any exercise, any emergency preparedness exercise with the fire department, in Vaudreuil or Terrasse. Nothing to help us protect ourselves. No training to help us if there's an incident with CP or CN. It's never happened. We've been asking for this for a long time. But now we're getting information about what's in the cargo or the freight trains, but we get this information once the train's already gone through or gone by. So that is definitely a gap. We need to get this information beforehand. And this training, CP, CN have to be able to give training to people on Ile Perrot so we can protect ourselves, because in all honesty, if ever we would have an incident occur like the one we saw in Lake Megantic, I'm really, really afraid for my municipality. I know that the firefighters on Ile Perrot are not trained to deal with that type of incident. Some firefighters have expertise in this area, but I think that right now we need this type of training. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dowdle. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Bordeaux. Prochainement, nous avons...
Next, we have Mr. Badaway. You have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all the presenters this afternoon for coming out and giving us your valuable time. I do want to start out with Mr. Bordeaux, and I'm going to concentrate on the effects, more so from railway safety, somewhat railway safety, but more so concentrating on the effects of railway operations on neighboring communities. And I have to ask this question to Mayor Bordeaux. Do you find that railway operations have an impact on your community health and safety?
Yes, yes, they do. There are different types of impacts. The very fact that we have to wait a long time for the train to pass, that it increases stress level. When the train arrives, sometimes it blocks the access for 1 or 2 hours. So there's a stress on the people. That doesn't help. And the municipality, people try to get to the other area of the municipality so they can try and leave, and sometimes they get stuck there too. So there's a danger here. People don't come to a full stop. They want to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible so that they can make sure that they can get out of the municipality. As for noise, well, people are used to the noise, but in terms of safety and the impact on people, yes, there is an impact involved.
All said, Mr. Mayor, what is your expectation of railway companies, their operations to alleviate these health and safety concerns by, once again, the railway companies themselves? How do you feel they should be alleviating these concerns?
First of all, since 1990, we were getting together to deal with issues in Vaudreuil since 1990. This has been going on with all the money that this could generate, and it would be really good if we could get an overpass put in that would help with the security of people. We just don't have 2 tracks to cross. We have 4. So often that causes a lot of problems. That's the first thing that I would ask. I would ask for an overpass or an underpass. And training of our people. That is something that I would like to see in my area, because lack of training stresses people. When you look at the number of trains that pass, they wouldn't know what to do if ever there was an incident.
Mayor, I want to switch over and pivot over to the Railway Association of Canada, and I would appreciate if Mr. Brazeau would answer these questions. And once again, I'm going to concentrate on the effects of railway operations on neighboring communities. And Mr. Chairman, I do want to go on record to state that CN declined to attend this meeting as per the committee's invitation. To say the very least, I'm very disappointed about that. And it's extremely unfortunate, Mr. Chairman, as I would have only assumed. As a matter of fact, I would have expected that CN would be interested in working with this committee on behalf of the communities that we all represent to ensure community health and safety. So therefore, Mr. Brazeau, you're the closest in attendance today who may remotely reflect on the questions I'm going to ask and attempt to deliver a response on behalf of at least one of your members. With that, I will preface my comments by stating this. I do, as well, represent a community that has had dramatic effects by railway operations, that being CN Rail, specifically in the city of Thorold and the Port Robinson hamlet, where they have a switching yard that's, quite frankly, a lot larger than the operation's geography allows. Noise, diesel smell, vibration, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, blocking roadways. So, Mr. Mayor, I feel your pain, and hence the reason for my questioning to you, as well as trying to come to some resolve for the residents that go through this on a daily basis. So I have to ask the association. You mentioned that you encourage collaboration within communities that are affected by railway operations. So I have to ask you a simple question. How do you do that? And then, more importantly, how do you come to resolve or a resolve to ensure the health and safety of the residents that are being affected by railway operations?
Thank you, Mr. Badway, for your question. And representatives from CN and CP were not available to join us today, but I just want to note that they did appear in April of last year, and we also attempted to appear in May. However, we had some technical difficulties, and unfortunately, we could not present. But we are pleased to be here to discuss what the railway industry as a whole is doing to help mitigate noise, disruptions in communities that we operate in. And really what it comes down to is a program that's been around for a number of years, but a program that needs to get more municipalities and provinces to adopt those standards, and that's the proximity guidelines. That's the proximity initiatives. The railways have been around for a long time, and in some cases, the railways, ran through land or territory first, and then there was build up around the railways. So in cooperation with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the Railway Association of Canada put together these proximity guidelines, which was really to help municipalities ensure that any growth, any urban development near and around railways were done in a safe, responsible way.
Mr. Brazeau, if I may, and I apologize for,
yeah.
The question was, what are you doing about the problems? I know how they've evolved over time, but what are you doing about the problems that are existing right now within municipalities, within communities? Noise, vibration, smell, etc. What does your association actually encourage railway companies to do to deal with those problems?
To work with the municipalities and the urban developers to make sure that those proximity guidelines are respected, to make sure that there is enough distance between the railways and residences, and that any development, any growth in around railways is done so safely so that we can minimize risk of noise, incidents, trespassing incidents. That's what we are doing. And I can't speak to specific cases because those would have to be addressed specifically by the railways on a one-to-one basis where there are specific examples. But the CTA is also engaged in this. If there are noise complaints, residents have an opportunity, obviously, to go to the CTA, and then there's there are standards and procedures.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brazeau. Next, prochainement, nous avons des questions.
Next, we have a question. It's for Mr. Barcelo Duval. You have 6 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciated the testimony I've heard to date. I'd like to say that at the outset. I'm going to follow up on Mr. Badaway's line of questioning. I have a question for Mr. Boudreau. I live in a riding where railways pass through, and I'd like to know, and I have the I'm got the impression it's this problems are similar from one region to the next, but I would like to know from Mr. Boudreau, when you have issues that you want to deal with the railway companies, are you able to have these problems resolved? Yes, in the long term, but it's not always easy to find someone who can give us an immediate answer. It can take up to 1 or 2 weeks before someone returns their call. So aren't companies obliged to cooperate with municipalities to ensure that it's not an option, that it's an obligation? Yes. Yes, I agree with you on that. And just for the length of the trains themselves, sometimes, there's only 2 kilometers between the entrance and the exit to the municipality, and sometimes a train blocks both. And as time goes on, we can see that the train lengths are getting longer and longer. So should there perhaps be should there be a limit put on the train convoys? Yes, exactly. You also said that the municipalities need to be told about what freight is going through their municipality ahead of time. This also happens in Boucherville, when you ask for this info, when you ask the railway companies for this information, what explanations do they provide you with? And why aren't they giving you information ahead of time? Often, they're not able to tell us ahead of time. Or sometimes it's for a question of security. That's what we're often told as a pretext. That's the pretext we're often given. They don't want us to have this information if ever there's some dishonest people who want to do some harm. So they talk a lot about security. I'd like to now turn to the Railway Association of Canada. Is there anything that can be done by the railway companies to ensure that information gets to the municipalities so we can at least advise the fire departments? Good afternoon. We do have a mobile app that's available to first line responders. It's called Ask Rail. It's an app that provides information on dangerous goods that are being transported by trains. This information is confidential, however, and so the information is only provided to first responders. TRAN is a program that is designed for first responders at no cost, and it's also funded by the Chemistry Association of Canada, and I can confirm that in Mr. Bodo's writing, training was provided back in 2021 and in 2019 to first responders. That's something that's important for us as an association. We want to be able to work with municipalities and first responders to give them the needed training if ever there is an incident. This is a program that's been around for many years, and we'd be prepared to work with the mayor and the municipality to provide further training. Thank you. The railways testified, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was back in 2021. They too talked about this app, but what about access to this app? We got the impression, at least that's what I understood, that from the people in Boucherville who testified, it was only one or two individuals in Boucherville who had access to the info. So in practice, that becomes quite rather difficult to use, and you can't do any follow-up. Can you be more proactive? Could railway companies be more proactive to train other people or to widen access to the app? I think that we'd be very open to offering more training. We want to ensure that first responders have the training because that will enhance the ability of everyone to be able to respond if ever there's an incident. As for sharing information, there's a whole security aspect that needs to be protected. We don't want this information to get into the hands of individuals who shouldn't have it. Training and the mobile app, well, having more people who are trained is better. And these trained people, they also need to get the information. So that's a part and parcel of the training. I have another question for you. Everybody thinks about Lac Mégantic. This was a major tragedy that occurred in Quebec. It traumatized for everyone. Traumatized everyone in Quebec. But Transport Canada and made some requirements. There were legislative changes. What did you do proactively? What did the railway companies do proactively to ensure that we're not just relying on regulations and ensuring compliance, but what more could they do? What action was taken? You have 15 seconds, Mr. Brazeau. A tragedy like that one still has marked people, but it guides us in putting forward recommendations and implementing them. There were 40 or so recommendations put in place, and there's a will on the part of the industry to ensure security. We have all kinds of recommendations that support that initiative. Thank you very much, Mr. Brazeau.
Mr. Bachrach, the floor is yours. You have 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to start with some questions for Ms. Eschak. I'm hearing a bit of an echo in my earpiece. Are other folks hearing that? At the risk of taking seconds off my time. That's better. There we go. Ms. Eschak, thank you so much for your presentation. I wanted to start with the topic of safety management systems. This committee has heard quite a bit about safety management systems. I know that it's a tool that the government is fond of employing to manage safety, and yet I'm not sure that we really understand what they are. In a previous meeting, I described them as safety plans and was corrected by the chair of the TSB. Could you very briefly describe what a safety management system is and the role it plays in regulating rail safety?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Safety management systems are meant to be an additional layer of safety. It's supposed to be an additional layer for our inspectors to have those tools in their toolbox. Transport Canada is not applying it that way. They are making it their main issue of monitoring safety. For years now, we've been calling on transport to do a review of the safety management systems. What we see is that the transport is devolving their responsibility more to private operators rather than focusing on the prevention of safety and what is dangerous through the SMS inspections. I'm not sure if that makes sense to you. Transport Canada has been moving towards using audits. Audits reveal what went wrong. They don't prevent accidents or incidences. Again, safety management is supposed to be there as a tool for our inspectors to help the companies, not be the only thing that companies rely on. We'd like to see more random and unannounced inspections of rail companies' operations and equipment, and the hiring of more rail inspectors to ensure compliance with outlined policies and procedures. We feel that Transport Canada has really gone backwards in this regard rather than go forward. We would like Transport Canada to have a single number one priority, and that is safety. The safe transport of goods across the country on our rail systems, and the safest possible passenger train service in the world. Right now, they work under competing priorities, one which appears to be reducing the regulatory burden on operators. For transport to be focused on reducing regulations would appear to be a conflict of interest as to what their role as a regulator is. Sir, I'm not sure if that helps.
No, that's great. In your view, are safety management systems a form of self-regulation?
Yes.
Government. Okay, sorry. That's a very simple and short answer. Thank you. You talked about unannounced on-site inspections by Transport Canada. Why do you feel that is so important?
I'm going to give you an example of when I was with Transport Canada in the civil aviation world. I looked after their operating certificates, mainly like the same as with rail. When our inspectors used to go out and do these inspections, that's when they would catch or find issues with the company's safety programs. When they're announced that they have to go and they have to give them so much notice, it gives the companies time to, for better lack of words, clean up and hide some of their problems that they've been dealing with. And so that's why it's so important that the random and unannounced inspections are happening. I mean, that's when I used to see a lot of notices of suspensions towards the company until they fix these problems. Right now, that tool is no longer in place, and it doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies when it comes to the safety of rail.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Estrak. I'd like to switch now to Mayor Bordeaux. Mayor Bordeaux, I found your testimony very interesting. I also come from a small community that has a rail line going through it. And we've heard from others in the municipal sector with similar concerns to the ones that you expressed. Now, around the issue of fire protection, should small communities such as yours, should those small communities' fire departments be responsible for responding to major fire incidents related to rail transport?
Yes, but we need to have the expertise and the training to do this right now. I believe Mr. Brazeau said in 2021 that in my riding, in my region, well, in the 4 towns I named earlier, nothing was done. Vaudreuil, nothing. Terrasse, no, there was no training. So I'd like to contact Mr. Brazeau to follow up on this for our firefighters, because they're the first ones who are on the scene when there's an incident.
A related question with sort of 2 parts. Should municipal taxpayers be on the hook for funding fire protection related to rail transport? And secondly, are the taxes paid by the railway to your community sufficient to deal with the risks and the impacts that rail transport poses?
No, I can tell you. I just saw the Lake Megantic bill. We have a budget of 2.5 million, and my fire department, I think we only have $250,000 in our budget. I can't. We don't know. I can't rely on another town. We never know what's going to happen, and so
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Landsman, the floor is yours. You have 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you to all of the witnesses for making the time today. I know that you're busy. I'm going to start with Mr. Gagné, and thank you for joining us. And I look at your sort of opening remarks and your experience, and I just want you to talk a little bit more about and give you a little bit more time on what you're lacking. What's lacking from your perspective for the government to ensure rail safety? I'm not sure that we got there in your remarks, but I'd like to hear your view on it, given where you are in the country.
Sure. I think I'd start with the strengths of what I see here in Sarnia, and you can use that as a baseline to compare. Here, if there was a noise or if there was some kind of a nuisance complaint, the systems that we have set up now have our member companies sharing that information with the newspaper. They share that to the public, and anyone like yourselves that want to subscribe, you would get those notifications come across. That model was based on consultations with First Nations. They had a system already set up in their community to do that, and we followed their example and set that up for all of our member companies, including that obviously here in Sarnia, there's a lot of different things that we have going on here in terms of risk, and definitely rail operations is right in the middle of a lot of our sites and our operations. So that connection with the community is really important. The management systems piece is key. You're right in terms of due diligence and not prescriptive law, but it's important in terms of its risk piece. Sarnia was the birthplace of responsible care. It started here in the 80s. And the big piece with responsible care and management systems is that understanding that the more that you understand risk, the better you can control it. And so there's different ways to assess risk, and there's very technical ways to do that. But sometimes the best way is to go and listen to a worker and go and listen to the community, and that you get a lot of information there, and that continuous improvement loop that happens over time is the due diligence, and it is the polish over time of improvement. So I would say here in Sarnia we do that not by it's done deliberately. And we have third-party auditors that come in and verify that in our companies, but it's just the general culture here. There's a lot of practice here. There's a lot of different risks, and our community is very in tune with that, and we have to be, because the people that work at our sites, including rail operations, also live here. And so when we talk to the mayors, and when we talk to the warden, and we talk to the chief of the Amjanong, and we connect, it's all of us working together to manage risk. So I think if you start with that foundation, it's a key point. How you write that into law, that's a tough one, but it's just simply listening and responding when people give you feedback. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it is helpful. I wanted to ask you, given your experience with in the area, can you give us your assessment based or on the different risks related to rail versus pipeline and dangerous goods, and how that interacts with some of what you've seen or with your system?
Sure. Well, if you look at a portfolio of Sarnia, we have refining, we have petrochemical, we have different manufacturing, and there's transport trucks going in and out of these, and rail operations going all around them, and it's all. And when you look at these fundamentals about listening to the public and controlling risk, it's all pretty much the same. Like I said, the incident that we have, again, by design in the region, that we're rolling here in the 2nd of May, and you're welcome to come down and see it. We're going to have a tank fire that's going to be responded to by the refinery, and then it's going to evolve into a cloud that goes over and affects a rail operation, and then it extends beyond into the community. And we're all working this scenario together and developing these injects to test. And I guess that the important part of that is that can happen just as a matter of fact with industry, but we are directly engaging the public in this, and we're actively getting their feedback. And what's important is that we don't just get their feedback. And by the way, in terms of organized labor, the president of the Sarnia Lambton Construction and Building Trades is participating directly in the drill, because there could be workers at the site, and we want to make sure that he sees what we're doing and his members understand that we care, and we want their feedback on these, not only of course on the prevention side, but if there is some kind of an incident, to minimize any impact. So it's really quite a holistic look at risk, and keeping the tolerance for it very low, and keeping the culture open so that we all listen to each other and respect each other.
Thank you.
Workers,
Thank you, Mr. Gagné. I just have a quick question. Do you know of anywhere else where this exists across the country? Is this unique to Sarnia? Okay. And anywhere else, perhaps, given your location on the other side of the border?
No, I've been in this game for a long time, and worked in the States and out west and out east, and I'm very proud of what we have set up. This level of transparency that we've built here is definitely worth a look from this group, and I'd be happy to help in any way that I can.
Okay. Thank you very much for making the time for us today.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gagné, and thank you very much, Ms. Landsman. Next, we have Ms. Koutrakis. Ms. Koutrakis, you have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'd like to thank everyone for their testimony this afternoon. It's much appreciated. I'm going to begin. I believe this is a question for the Railway Association, but if not, I'd like to hear from other witnesses as well. Could you just talk about the measures taken by rail operators to ensure that our supply chain is put back on the rails following the flooding that took place on the West Coast last summer? I'm thinking about the unusual cooperation between normally uncooperative railway operators, and if these actions had not been taken as quickly as they were, what would have happened? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Koutrakis. I'm going to answer in English because, in all honesty, I have the whole process in my mind with what happened in the West, but it's in English.
The supply chain disruptions that we saw in British Columbia and in fact in Western Canada in this past summer as a result of raging forest fires and then the atmospheric rivers that we saw in British Columbia really tested the railways. But I think as everybody read the news and saw the efforts, the Ukrainian efforts put forward by the railways, first of all, to work together to ensure that essential supplies were able to get in and out of the Port of Vancouver. I think, again, that speaks volume about the fact that we have two Class 1s who, yes, they compete with each other, but they also work with each other, and not just during times of need like that, but also during normal working times, there's cooperation between the two railways. The ability for railways to respond as quickly as they did, the ability for them to repair their infrastructure as quickly as they did that in concert with the British Columbia government. They did that in concert with the municipalities. We worked with a number of other key supporters and contractors who obviously worked very closely with the railways. Really was an impressive feat, and it does, however, speak to the need for us to have a more robust climate change action plan, because we have to protect our infrastructure, we have to protect our supply chains, and that is something that we've started having some conversations with Minister Alghabra on, and other jurisdictions. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us, whether it be in the private sector or the public sector, to work together with all members of the supply chain, including our customers, to ensure that the integrity of Canada's supply chain is maintained, because we are a trading nation. We depend on our national trade corridor, and we have to make sure that the infrastructure investments and the build out is going to be, will be able to withstand some of the challenges that we'll continue to see on the climate change front.
Mr. Chair, do I have time for one more?
You do.
Okay. Je vais demander.
I'd like to ask Mayor Bordeaux. Last year, we heard the testimony from the Transport Safety Bureau, and in certain instances, they ordered rail operators to suspend their activities at night. I'd like to see whether this is occurring more often. What do you think about this as a small town? What are your thoughts on this? Yes. There's less noise at night, so people can sleep better. And if ever there was an accident, they're sure that the ambulance would be able to get to their house if the need arose. But during the day, a lot of people aren't at home then. But we've reduced there's no more honking at night, less sirens. That's something we've noticed. Yes, it would be great if this applied to the night, but sometimes there's no choice. Yes, there are other different methods that can be used, but during peak hours, we could perhaps do this during peak hours or during the morning or supper hour. But CNCP, they use their tracks for passenger trains, so you have to think of all of that. Thank you very much.
Questions. If one of my colleagues would like some of my time, I cede the floor to them.
Thank you very much, Ms. Koutrakis. I'll take the time if you would want to cede it to me. Thank you. I appreciate that. So my question is for both Mr. Brazeau and Mr. Coles. I did some research. It looks like the industry is doing quite well. Many of your members have record profits, which I think is a great thing. It shows that more people are using rail. It's an environmentally sustainable way of shipping goods, which is something that is near and dear to my heart. But given that there's record profits for many of your members, why is it that mayors like Monsieur Bordeaux and others across the country aren't given the support that they need to build the kind of overpasses and underpasses that would help ensure that citizens are safer. In Mr. Bordeaux's case in Taras-Vaudreuil, he had said that it's been over 30 years since the city has been trying to get this overpass and underpass. Why is it that they're not getting that kind of support if financing is not an issue? And what do you propose on behalf of your members moving forward to ensure that they're given expedited support to provide that kind of infrastructure and to keep our respective citizens safe? Thank you.
I'll begin and then I'll turn it over to my colleague. Well, first of all, I think Greg in his opening remarks pointed out that there are billions spent by the railways. And in fact, if you go back to, I think it's 1999, there's been $33 billion worth of investments put back in the rail infrastructure directly by CN and CP. So this is, this is a significant investment, capital investment made year over year by the railways back into their infrastructure, rolling stock and equipment, and it's all with the aim of ensuring the safety, the efficiency of the network and the fluidity of the network. And I think that certainly has paid dividends, all of these investments. But there's more that could be done. And that's why we've advocated for the federal government to provide more support to municipalities and private landowners when it comes to the new grade crossing regulations that are going to come into effect. Those are significant investments, and we believe that the Rail Safety Improvement Program, RSIP, is one way where there could be additional
I appreciate that, Mr. Brazeau, but just directly to my question, why is it that mayors are waiting 30 years in some cases to get the kind of infrastructure that they need to keep their citizens safe? That's a direct question that I'd like answered, as well as a second question with regards to what you propose to do moving forward to provide more support that is necessary to these kind of communities that need it badly.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to be as direct as I can. There needs to be more public funding made available to municipalities, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities have asked for the same. We have asked for the same because there needs to, safety is a shared responsibility. And I think that the railways certainly have made that commitment, but we're looking for governments to also make additional commitments to support those initiatives. And then secondly, the railways, again, if we look at the grade crossing regulations, and I think that's really what the issue is with Le Maire, Mr. Bordeaux, is that grade crossing. There are new regulations coming into place, but those new regulations are going to require more investments, and I think that's really what it comes down to as well, is that there needs to be more public funding made available.
Thank you, Mr. Brazeau. On the record, you're stating that the tens of billions of dollars that was amassed in profits by the companies that you represent over the last 3 decades isn't enough, and that the taxpayers need to do more. Thank you very much. Prochainement, nous avons les...
Next, we have Mr. Xavier Barcela, who has the next question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question will be for Mr. Boudreau. Earlier, we talked about the issues in your writing, but we know that when Lake Megantic, when that incident occurred, we ended up coming up with a bypass track. It's not yet completed, but other municipalities would like to get support because the whole issue of these bypasses is something that applies to many communities. Would it be possible? What is it possible to do in this case? It seems to be there's no financial help. Is this the type of thing? Maybe it's not someone in your municipality could do this, but if, for instance, if federal organizations such as Transport Canada could come and assess how much this would cost, is this something that you would find interesting? Yes, all of those options to make sure that we're not hemmed in, that would be good. We talked about doing an overpass in the next 10 years. And then that we put in some traffic lights. And So I'm obliged to stop at the crossing because there's a red light. And that's how they decided to deal with security. And we're in the top 2, 3, or 4 most dangerous crossing areas in Canada. So they decided to deal with the problem by having a traffic light. So if there's no train coming, well, now we have a traffic light. No train, but I have to wait for the traffic light. So if I understand you correctly, if there were any federal programs in order to fund studies, how we could redo certain things, or funding, that's something that would be relevant and would help you. Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Barcelo Duval.
Bachrach, the floor is now yours. You have 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to pick up where I left off with Ms. Eschak talking about some of the legislative changes. Now, you mentioned whistleblowing protections as a key legislative change. Are there other legislative changes that you feel would strengthen the rail safety environment in Canada?
I'm going to defer to my political advisor, Mike Martin, to answer that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bachrach, for the question. I think that we would see the changes necessary that can be done administratively first before you even went to legislation. There are many things that can be done right now, such as increasing the penalties for operators and incidents that for violations, and so that can be done without legislation. The unannounced inspection versus audit can be done without legislation. The alternate routing for shipping by rail that the mayor talked about, that municipalities need an alternate route for the rail traffic to go through, that can be done without legislation. And quite honestly, there needs to be a partnership, but the partnership needs to be with the railway operators and the levels of government. And the reason that it hasn't moved is because the funding isn't there to make that happen. And so, and finally, the last piece I'd say around the changes that can be made without legislation are we need more specialists in terms of the inspection that we do in this country. Because what Transport Canada has done is moved into multimodal inspection. And that's particularly true of dangerous goods, the transportation of dangerous goods, that the TTG inspectors now are expected to inspect all different modes. So they do rail one day, they may do civil aviation another day. And so what happens is the expertise gets watered down. And even though these people are very good at their jobs, that we need to focus back in on getting experts and specialists to be able to deal with some of the issues that are there already. So there are many things that can be done inside the existing practices that are happening right now. And quite honestly, we've been making the same calls for 20 years and very little things have happened. And the changes on the alternate routes have been going on since communities were built, and the railways said we're here, we're going to go through the community, and the changes need to be made at the funding and administrative level that can easily be made to improve rail safety in this country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin, and thank you very much, Mr. Bachrach. Next, we have Mr. Moise. Mr. Moise, the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes.
Well, and thank you very much to all the panelists who are here today, and thank you for your time. And I just want to echo some of the comments made by colleagues here. Certainly as a new member of Parliament, and I've not had the opportunity to participate in the entirety of this discussion on rail safety, I too am disappointed that CN was not able to accept the invitation, because I think that they have an important voice in this, given their footprint across the country and including in my own communities on the western end of the GTA. I want to ask Ms. Eschak and Mr. Martin maybe, we look forward to the report that you've sent and digesting that as we consider rail safety. And, in your opening remarks, Ms. Eschuk, you had a number of recommendations, a long list, and you just elaborated on some of those, Mr. Martin. If there's just to summarize, if there's maybe 3 things that we could focus on immediately to get make that gap of 20 years of improvements, what would they be?
Maybe I can start, and Teresa can back me up on it. And there's so many things that can be done, but I would say that the shift of Transport Canada it needs to shift back to inspection versus audit. That's what the shift of safety management systems has been in Transport Canada. And as Teresa talked about earlier, an audit is when you look at what happened after. An inspection helps you actually prevent things. And there's still the same role for the company. It's simply that there's another level of oversight. And that was the intention of SMS, and it never happened for the last 20 years. And that the inspections be unannounced, that regular scheduled audits are really good, but unexpected visits, like let's say your family is coming to visit and you know they're coming to you clean your house, but if they come unannounced, then your house is what it is, right? And people get to see that. And I think it's as simple as that. And on the transportation of dangerous goods, because I think that's where really the people are really worried about the safety of the system, because we ship a lot of dangerous goods and we're very good at it, and we actually have a very good track record on it. We just need to be as good as we can be, and that means we need to focus in on the alternate routes. It's a big issue, big problem, lots of money. And so those are 2 of the things that can be done easily. And maybe the third that I'd add, and Teresa can add what she needs, is increased administrative penalties. That if you're going to hold people to standards, then they have to pay a price if they don't make that. And they need to be substantial so that there's an incentive not to make the mistake, and people focus on preventing the mistake so they doesn't cost them any money.
Yeah, if I could just add one more thing, and it comes down to the Transportation Safety Board. Why do we have them if their recommendations aren't going to be implemented? Kathy Fox testified in front of you in February, and it's been in all modes, the recommendations that are made to Transport Canada by the Transportation Safety Board aren't being implemented. Those are the experts at the Transportation Safety Board. Those are the inspectors that go out in all modes and they inspect and they find out why the accident happened. So in order to prevent the accidents happening, then Transport Canada needs to take into account seriously the recommendations of the Transportation Safety Board. And if they don't implement their recommendations, then they need to be accountable and explain why they haven't. Thank you.
And that we've got probably only 10 more minutes of this discussion before we move on. I wanted to ask Mr. Gagné again to weigh in, just having observed this entire conversation so far today, just because, as we've heard, BASIS is a unique model in Canada and perhaps in North America, and Sarnia again leads the way as it did with responsible care. So good for you. But I'm intrigued by all of the things that you've talked about in terms of emergency preparedness, the notification system, the collaboration with the community, your description of the events, the practice events that are going to take place with a cloud of smoke. That sounds like a very good initiative. So, what would you say, having listened to all this conversation, the frustrations of the mayor and others, how do we take that BASIS model and apply that across Canada?
I guess you look at what is causing the frustration, and typically that's when people aren't being heard or they don't feel like they're being heard. When there's objective information that people believe is the workers or members of the community or First Nations believe that they've got really solid evidence in their opinion that says this is what we should do, and there's no response. So I think though that's where people would get frustrated. And I want to be careful to say, look, like Sarnia is not perfect, but there are some fundamental things here that I see culturally with our member companies. I see also what you did at the federal level with the E2 regulations that you brought in, and that very much aligned with the responsible care and the CIEC tools that they have. This reaching out to the community. So my previous comment about, hey, it's hard to come up with laws that says that you need to listen, but actually that is an example where you do reach out and connect with the community, and the environmental emergency stuff under SEPA is quite effective.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gagne. Thank you very much, Mr. Muse. Next, we have Mr. Iacono. Mr. Iacono, you have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
On to Mrs. Teresa, Transport Canada has completed 90% of the recommendations. The last 10% that have not been completed tend to be accounted to with respect to jurisdictional problems and technological obstacles. Alors, ma première question.
So my first question is for the Mayor. Good afternoon. How is it that the security coordination says, and you have more than one railway operator in your territory? Are you aware of what's going on? Are you aware of what's going on with these various countries? No, not really. The only things that we can get from them is we get a Garo train. People come in the morning, they distribute pamphlets with respect to individual security. And the last time that they came, thank you. Have you ever asked for more assistance? Yes, we've already requested for additional help, but nothing's happened. Thank you. My next question is for Mr. Brazo. Tell us what specific measures, which have not already been taken, that the regulatory bodies, what should they take in order to enhance rail safety? I go back to the conclusions you gave earlier. You said that there's a lack of money, but tell us. You said that there's a lack of money, but what exactly needs to be done as measures? I think the Mayor talked about Operation Aerotrain, which has been around for years. It's a partnership between Transport Canada and railway companies to make communities aware of railway safety. So that's an example where we can have more engagement with the municipalities throughout the country, greater participation of municipalities, provinces. We could. And it was also mentioned, was also talked about SMS, Safety Management Systems, which is a program that we continue to support. We support the program through the Safety Culture Initiative. All of these programs are available. We work closely with all of the rail companies in the country, and we're prepared to work with the municipalities. I don't have a lot of time. Would it be possible to provide us with this list? Thank you. When we think about the rail carriers or operators, we think about CN and CP, but what are the problems, the safety problems that are unique for the smaller railway companies, the secondary or tourist railways? Very good question. We're asking for some support, more in-depth support for smaller railway companies, the regional trains, the tourist trains. In the U.S., there are specific trains for the specific programs that exist for these railways. We don't have this in Canada. So the smaller companies don't have the same resources to the way bigger railways companies. So we need small railways throughout the country. So, Mr. Brazeau, I'll ask you once again if you could please provide us with these details through the clerk, and what could we do in addition to improve safety for these actors? Could you provide us with any details on that? In your opinion, what is a best type of data that we have in order to measure railway safety, and why? Earlier, I talked about a task force that has been set up at the TSB and Transport Canada to gather information that will be useful. So this is information that exists today, but we might be able to share other types of information. This will all help us to establish programs that will improve safety. Thank you. And the railway police, do they have priority over local police departments, or do they work in conjunction with them? Is there something that prevents them from investigating rail accidents when justified? The police departments connected with the railway companies have the same capacities, the same training as that of municipal or provincial police forces, but they work together with the other organizations in situations where deemed necessary. So there is an exchange of information. They work together, but obviously the work done by the railway police is significant because they know the railway. They're there on the scene to ensure that there are no incidents because of various reasons. So they're prepared to work with other police departments as well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Yacro and Mr. Brazeau. And finally, we have Mr. Généraux. You have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so I take a first quick 30 seconds, if I may, Mr. Chair. We had the minister here last time, so didn't get the chance to say that thank you for the kind welcome from a number of the colleagues on the other side of the table, and of course from my current colleagues for officially joining the committee or rejoining the committee again. I know I worked with a number of you from previous time on Transport Committee. We haven't gone very far. Mr. Badaway, Mr. Iacono, Mr. Rogers, good to see you all again. My questions to you, Mr. Brazeau. It seemed to me that the questions or the concerns from Mr. Bordeaux, Mayor Bordeaux, and what I can only suspect are other mayors around the country are curious as to that data piece. It seems you mentioned you're looking for a lot more funding and a lot more supports from the government, but that data piece seems to be, to me at least, a reasonable ask from the municipalities. And I'm looking, you've been working with FCM since 2003 on a number of other initiatives. It would have seemed to me that type of ask would be something that your association members would be very easy to provide to certain municipalities as they go through. I guess explain to me why obviously it's not as simple as what me and Mr. Bordeaux and I assume many others seem to think it is.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Généraux. So I think, just to be clear, you're referring to the transportation of dangerous goods data, so that municipalities have information at their fingertips.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor Bordeaux let it be known earlier in this committee that often rail cars come through his municipality and other municipalities, and he doesn't know until after the fact what's on it. So it seems to me that you guys obviously know, the company obviously knows, so why can't you let the mayor and other municipalities know?
Yeah, there is a protective direction that's in place for the sharing of that information. And again, as I mentioned, there's a program called TransCare, and that TransCare provides free training to first responders in municipalities across the country. And when that training is received, then the individuals who have the need to have that kind of information, that information is shared with them by the railways through a mobile app. And so that information is available. Now, the question of, is there a delay in getting that information? There may be some information that needs to be delayed for whatever reason, because trains are you got trains coming in from all directions. Sometimes they're transferred from one company to the next company. That's something that we could look into to see if there are some efficiency gains to be had there. But generally, that information is available, and that training is available to all first responders across the country.
But and you have a tough job here today, Mr. Brazeau. You're defending all of your members, and I get that there's some other members who were invited and weren't able to show up, and that's acceptable in my opinion. But to think that the mayor of a town like Mr. Bordeaux, who would be responsible in terms of if anything were to go south with whatever's on that type of rail car that goes through, that it would seem to me that it'd be reasonable to have him and his municipality or members of his team really know what's on that car for that proactive piece. So is it simply that a mayor of a town isn't considered to be part of that need to know basis when it comes to what's on the rail cars?
Yeah, I just so I can be clear here, because there's probably some missing information here. But first of all, and I extend the invitation to the mayor, Mr. Bordeaux, again, because we've provided training in Baie-d'Urfé, Île-Perrot, in Vaudreuil to first responders. We've tried training as early as last year, and we're available to do it again in this year. But CN and CP and the railways have an ERAP plan. There's an emergency response assistance plan that they need to have, and it is in place. So if there is an incident, you've got experts who come through the railways and deal with those situations. But certainly as a first responder on site, we do provide intensive training, and that training is available at no cost. And we work with other jurisdictions to provide that training. So I just want to be clear, and there's mock training as well put on by both CN and CP with municipalities to ensure that there's good communications.
And yeah. I think I understand that piece, Mr. Brazeau. Thanks for clarifying some of it. But it's still the mayor of the town. You're saying there's training being offered, great. You guys show up if something happens, great. But there's still that, in my opinion, and what sounds like Mayor Bordeaux's opinion, is that there's that missing piece of information that the mayor has no idea of what's coming or going through his town. I can appreciate you probably go through a bunch of towns, but I would think that that to me again seems like that data of what's coming through the town would be a reasonable position for your rail companies to take. And maybe I'll turn it over to Mayor Bordeaux quickly in my last kind of few minutes to if he has any kind of comments on some of that from his perspective on what that would look like from a data piece, because I know he made some comments earlier.
30-second response, please, Monsieur Bordeaux. Merci.
Clearly, by having such data, I could communicate with my fire department if ever there was any danger. We don't have to react to a situation. We could then respond to a situation. I know the chief of the fire department would be pleased to get this data, and he could communicate with the 4 other municipalities and come up with some type of an action plan in advance of an incident occurring. But Mr. Brazeau, I'm going to be contacting you soon. Thank you,
Mr. Genereux, for your questions, and thanks you, colleagues, for your thoughtful questions as well. And a thank you on behalf of this entire committee to all of our witnesses that appeared today and sharing your responses. Witnesses, you are now free to disconnect, and we will wait for you to do that before this committee goes into committee business. Matt, hopefully we'll be able to get to see you in person at some point. Join us over here in Ottawa.
Yeah, I was trying to this week, but I couldn't make it work. But I forgot to give you a shout out, Shifky. Good to see you. Good to see you in the chair.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Matt. So just going to confirm with the clerk that we do indeed no longer have any of the witnesses on with us. Is that confirmed? All of the witnesses have disconnected? Yep. Great. Okay, so there was a motion that was presented by Ms. Landsman, and as I stated earlier, after discussions with all of you, we wanted to ensure that we had an opportunity to discuss that motion as it is timely and I believe quite important. So, Ms. Landsman, I'll turn the floor over to you to explain the motion and also discussions perhaps that you've had with other members to come to a consensus.
Sure, I think you'll find consensus on the committee, and I'll read the motion into the record. The pursuant to Standing Order 1082, and in light of the presence of Russian vessels on Canada's east coast and the violation of prohibited airspace by Russian aircraft, the committee immediately undertake a study, preparedness to respond to Russian threats to Canadian waters, ports, and airspace, and that the study include 2 meetings, and that the committee invite the Minister of Transport to appear, as well as other witnesses at the request of the committee. And the committee reports its findings to the House. Given what we've seen late yesterday, we saw the Department of Transport confirmed an aircraft detained in Yellowknife was a charter carrying 2 Russian foreign nationals. Transport Canada, again, working with CBSA to assess the matter. And given the recent events, I think this is a timely, certainly a timely study. And I think that it should precede any committee business if there is agreement on from the committee for a couple of meetings.
Thank you very much, Ms. Landsman. Any discussion on this, or anybody? Mr. Barcelou-Duval, je sais que vous avez des discussions.
I know that we discussed this matter this morning. There was an amendment. Mrs. Landsman, well, her motion, does that represent the changes that you wanted to see in the text? Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, completely. Yes, I'm pleased to see that Ms. Landsman's motion contains the adjustments that I wanted to make. So I'm happy about that.
Parfait. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Barcelou-Duval. Any further comments on this motion?
Can we have a vote on this? All those in favor? All those opposed? Adopted. And thank you for that, Ms. Landsman. And just to be clear, we will be starting this when we return after the break, and we will be pushing all the committee's business forward as needed. Sounds good? Thank you, colleagues. It's a great meeting. Meeting is now adjourned.